once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in our country over the past week or so. And as usual, in Guyana, there always is a lot to speak about. Now, as usual, I want to welcome all of our viewers who are joining us on Facebook right across Guyana and the Caribbean and, of course, North America, Europe, and further afield. I also want to take this opportunity to welcome our listeners who are joining us on Freedom Radio from Rob Street, Georgetown. Welcome again to another program of Issues in the News. Now, let us start with the house-to-house registration case. As you know, we have filed a case in the High Court in which we are seeking to halt house-to-house registration on the ground that were that exercise to be allowed to continue, it would make it impossible to hold elections by September the 18th, which is the date that the CCJ says elections must be held in accordance with Article 1066 and 1067 of the Constitution. The other ground upon which we are challenging the house-to-house registration is that it is, the way that it is conducted is that it is illegal. It is illegal in the sense that the law does not provide for house-to-house in the manner in which GCOM plans to do it or GCOM is doing it. The law says that you can go house to house to register persons within a claims and objections period or within a cycle of continuous registration. The law does not permit you to retire the entire database of registrants or to throw away or to scrap the entire database of registrants and to start all over again to create a new database for the purpose of national registration. The law does not permit that. You can only, because if you do so, you would be taking tens of thousands of eligible registrants who are already registered off the list, and they may not be available, they may not be able to get their names back on the list during this registration process. In any event, the law only allows you to take a person's name off the list in identified circumstances listed in the law. For example, death, insanity, if one goes to jail, etc., etc. Only then can persons' names be taken off the list. You cannot scrap the list wholesale. If you do so, you are going to deny tens of thousands of persons their right to vote. Persons who are on the list are qualified to vote, and that's a right that is protected by the Constitution. You simply can't take it away by some decision of GCOM to scrap the entire database. The law does not allow that to take place. The law says very clearly that you can add to the existing register by a house-to-house process, but that must be done within the cycle of continuous registration, or that must be done within the claims and objections period. The reason why we are objecting to that being done even in the cycle is because of the time factor. And on last week's program, I detailed how much time it will take for this process to complete. And if we allow that time frame to, if we allow that time to elapse, then elections are not going to be held until late 2020. If that happens, it means that the Constitution will be violated. It means that the CCJ's judgment will be rendered nugatory, and it means that the purpose of the no confidence motion would have been defeated. And these are things that are essential to a democracy. A no confidence motion, once it is passed, its consequences and effects must be given effect to. They must be accorded the importance that the Constitution accords it. These are the rules of democracy. And if we want to continue to live in a democratic society, then these are the rules that we have to play by. Of course, unfortunately, we are faced with a government that is not prepared to abide by the Constitution, is not prepared to abide by the court decisions, and is not prepared to abide by the laws of the land. So what the government is doing is that the government is doing everything that is possible to defeat the Constitution, to render odious and nugatory the judgment of the CCJ, and to frustrate the rule of law. And that is what the government is engaged in. I want to take this opportunity, I pause here to take this opportunity to welcome Ms. Justice Claudette Singh, welcome her appointment to the post of chairperson of GCOM. That appointment has brought an end to nearly 2 years of unnecessary constitutional impasse caused by the president and by the government. 2 years it took us to interpret the Constitution. And I want to spend some time to reflect and ask you to reflect upon the turmoil, the pain, the anguish, the sufferings that this government is causing to this nation by the unreasonable position it takes on these constitutional and legal matters. All because it does not want to face the electorate. It does not want to go to democratic elections. It does not want to abide by the Constitution. And why? Because inherently the government is dictatorial and authoritarian. Imagine for 25 years, we never had a problem with appointing a GCOM chairperson. We never had a problem with interpreting Article 161(2) of the Constitution. Mr. Desmond Hoyt, Dr. Chedi Jagan, Mr. Bharat Jagdev, Mrs. Jana Jagan, all of them had a role to play in incorporating or implementing or giving effect to Article 161(2) of the Constitution. And nobody ever had a problem until this gentleman, Mr. David Granger, comes on the scene. Mr. Hoyt was a senior counsel. He sat down with President Carter and Dr. Jagan and the different politicians at the time, and they crafted the Carter formula. So Hoyt had a deep understanding of what the intention of that formula is and why Article 161(2) is drafted in such a way. Hoyt understood that, and that is why every list that Mr. Hoyt submitted to the President of the day, the President of the day was able to choose a name from that list without rancor, without political controversy, without putting the nation through the horrible, horrible anguish and pain and frustration that this government has done repeatedly over the past 4 years. Imagine the president, because of his weird interpretation, weird, bizarre interpretation of Article 161(2), had this country arguing over whether you must put only judges or any other fit and proper person, Remember, the Constitution says a person qualified to be a judge, or a former judge, or any other fit and proper person are qualified to be appointed. These were the qualifications. And Mr. Granger could not understand that for 2.5 years and took this nation down a path of turmoil and anguish. He had educated people arguing that the Constitution only required judges, former judges, or persons qualified to be a judge. You remember that? Tens of thousands of educated people were brainwashed into believing that. They were brainwashed into not understanding what OR means. University professors, people with 2-3 degrees, highly academic people, people who are highly educated, were arguing about the meaning of or, the conjunction or. They don't understand what it means. They don't understand that it is disjunctive. That judge, former judge, or any person qualified to be a judge, or any other fit and proper person require anyone from those categories. Anyone from those categories would be qualified. For nearly 2 years, this country, Guyana, didn't understand what or means. That or is disjunctive. You can have mango or cherry. Either one would work. You can have tamarind or guinea. Either one could work. You could have chicken or egg. Either one could work. We didn't understand that because of what the president did. But now the president managed to brainwash tens of thousands of Guyanese to argue that all over the place, all over Facebook. I don't know if these people don't feel ashamed. When the thing blow over now, do they feel ashamed of what they have done? Then look, you had another tens of thousands of people arguing that 33 is not the majority of 65. Imagine a president managed to get professors from the university, judges of the Court of Appeal, tens of thousands of educated Guyanese, lawyers, doctors, people with PhD were arguing, seriously arguing, that 33 is not a majority of 65. When primary school student in primary 1 or grade 1 would know that. Student in grade A would know what or means. That if the teacher says, bring cherry or orange to school, you could bring either one. But tens of thousands of educated people who were fed the political propaganda by this government lost their intellectual depth. They lost their ability to think. That is what politics does to people in this country. And I don't think that I have ever seen it happen anywhere else. Where educated people were telling me that 33 cannot be a majority of 65. When any school, any math student going to primary school would know that 33 is a majority of 65. That 34 is also, but 33 is also a majority of 65. That is what politics have done to tens of thousands of Guyanese. Brain damage them. Brain damage them. Now that that issue is over, I wonder now how do they go back to their normal lives? Are they not, when you are a parent and you argue such foolishness that 33 is not a majority of 65, and the thing blows over because the CCJ did not take one, it took about 2 paragraphs, just 2 paragraphs to dismiss that argument as nonsense. Nonsense. The people were laughing. The judges were laughing us. That the whole country arguing about this. What I want to know, how do the parents feel who are arguing that and their children are hearing them argue that? How do they feel now? What do they tell their children? That they made a mistake? What, it was politics? Or they just don't talk about it anymore? I would want to hear a parent explain to a child how that parent for 2 years didn't understand what "or" means in Article 161(2). And they couldn't understand that 33 is a majority of 65. I don't understand. How do you tell your child now that you realize that it's wrong? And how did you begin to accept that it was right in the first place? I just give you that so that you understand how politics is destroying the human fabric of this society, is destroying our moral fabric, is destroying us, because we are beginning to look mad and sound mad to people who are overseas, people who are unconnected to the problem. They look at us and they want to know what kind of craziness, what kind of crazy society is this? But that is how we have become enslaved by the politician, mentally enslaved by the politician. And every one of these programs, I try and I will continue to try to persuade you not to become such robots. Don't let politicians make you into animals. Human beings are blessed with a faculty of reason. And it is that faculty of reason that allows us to differentiate and think. And that is what makes us superior in the animal kingdom. When we lose that faculty of reason, then we descend to the same level with the other animals in the animal kingdom. And we lose our status as human beings. And politicians are taking us, some of us, very close to that precipice. And that is why I dedicate so much time in trying to show the light, So Justice Claudette Singh's appointment has restored Article 161(2) to its proper tracks, because it was totally being mutilated. It was totally mutilated in the manner in which it was interpreted. It was being trampled upon, stamped upon, cut up into pieces, lacerated. That is what the interpretations placed upon it were doing to the plain language of that constitutional provision. Finally, the appointment of Justice Claudette Singh has brought an end to that madness, because she came from a list. She came from a list submitted by the leader of the opposition, and she found the non-unacceptability of the president. In other words, she found the acceptability of the president. So the article was kept intact. It was observed in the manner that it was intended to be observed. But it took us a lot of time. It cost us a lot of injury. It injured the psyche of this nation before we could have come to that simple understanding of what the Constitution says. Personally, I want no favors from Justice Claudette Singh. I do not wish Claudette Singh to act in any form of bias in favor of the PBP. All I want and all we want is for Justice Claudette Singh to discharge the oath of office that she took. I listened carefully at the swearing-in ceremony, and she took an oath to discharge the functions of her office without fear or favor, without ill will, and to the best of her ability, and in so doing, to uphold the Constitution of the laws and the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. And that's all I ask of her. That is all I ask of Claudette Singh. She worked with me as Attorney General for a number of years, and she was nothing but professional, competent and professional. And I expect her to discharge the functions of that office with the same distinction, the same professionalism, the same competence, the same rectitude, the same diligence. That is all I ask. We want no favor, we want no bias, we want no prejudice. Just apply the law. Just apply the law. Hopefully, we will see her applying the law soon. Because once the law is applied, house-to-house registration will have to be aborted. It will have to be aborted. So, today, we had a hearing in the case, and let me update you. As you are aware, Keith Lowenfield is sued in two capacities. He is sued as the Chief Elections Officer and the Chief National Registration Officer, because those are the two statutory offices that he holds. He is not sued, the two offices are sued. That was done deliberately, because if you sue Keith Lowenfield in those two capacities, this government, if we win the case, or when we win the case, they can very well dismiss Keith Lowenfield and say that the judgment obtained does not apply to him. So I am not going to fall into that trap. I didn't name Lowenfield. I named the offices that he holds. And the two offices are Chief Elections Officer and Chief National Registration Officer. So even if Lowenfield is knocked off, dismissed, it doesn't bother. It doesn't affect my case. Because whoever holds that position, whoever performs those functions, the case will bind them. You have to think this thing through with these people in government. So, Mr. Lowenfield in those two capacities are represented by a group of lawyers. And GCOM is also sued, and the Attorney General. Well, the Attorney General files an application on the ground to dismiss the case on the ground that all these issues that we are asking the court to determine now were already determined at the Caribbean Court of Justice. So these issues are what is called res judicata in law, meaning that they have been the subject of an earlier determination by a court of competent jurisdiction. And therefore, it would be an abuse of process for the court to hear and determine it again. That is what the Attorney General is asking the court to do. Stanley Marcus, he has filed an application to strike out the case as well. And his application is that the judge, Justice Roxanne George, issued a press statement sometime last week. And in that press statement, the judge said that elections must be held by September the 18th, 2019, or at such time that Parliament may agree to extend by a two-thirds vote. And he is saying, and the judge said that that is her interpretation of the CCJ ruling. This Marcus has filed a case to say that the judge is biased. So those are the two applications that were filed. No doubt they were filed to delay the case. They feel that I am a novice at this thing, that I would fall into their trap, that I would go to the court and ask for leave to file an answer, and I will ask for 7 days or 14 days, and then they will ask for another 7 days to reply. Not me. I learned too much from these things. So I told the judge that I don't want to file anything. I want to argue now. I have all the law here, and let us begin the argument of the case now. Fortunately for them, the judge was not prepared to hear the arguments today. But the judge did not change her time frame. Remember last week when we went there, the judge said that Friday she will have a hearing and possibly Monday. She will determine Friday when she will rule. The judge did not change that time frame. So this strategy of theirs to dilate and procrastinate did not yield any fruit today, because the judge refused to budge her time frame. The judge put all the applications to be heard Friday. So all arguments and all affidavits and all submissions have to be put in by Friday. So they were unsuccessful in getting to delay the matter. They come there thinking that by these two applications, they are going to be allowed to delay the matter, and the court will take till next month, sometime late next month, to determine the matter. Well, the court was not going to fall for such clumsy and foolish trap. It was so transparent. It was so predictable that any child would have been able to see through the plot of Basil Williams and Marcus. And they have not even filed an intelligent application, because I can deal briefly with each application. Marcus wants the court to recuse itself because the court makes a statement. All that the court did was to say what the CCJ said. And all the CCJ said is to say what the Constitution says. So what you want the court to say if that is what the Constitution says? How is that bias? The law of bias is very clear. One, a judge must have a pecuniary or a personal interest, either in the case or in the outcome of the case. Or, secondly, the judge must have behaved in such a way that any rational mind looking on would conclude that the judge is prejudiced in a particular direction. How can the judge in this case be interpreted to be prejudiced if she simply says what the Constitution of the country says? That is what the judge said in the press release. I don't know how that makes her biased, but this is the kind of time-wasting litigation that they are engaged in because they want the matter to be delayed. Their game is one of time. So they don't care how many legal principles they trample upon. They don't care how much abuse they subject the court to. They don't mind trampling upon the Constitution. They don't mind making a mockery of the Caribbean Court of Justice ruling. They don't care of the consequences of all these things. These things are doing untold, irreparable damage to our country. You think when the foreigners look Foreign investors look at what is going on in the judiciary and look how politicians are behaving in Guyana, that they want to build any future in Guyana? No. They are going to pump the oil and get out of here. That is what they're going to do. They are not going to do what they do in Trinidad, where they build buildings and invest in money. Trinidad has the Privy Council. Trinidad has had the Privy Council for 100 and more years. So they have law and order in that country. You can't misbehave like that in Trinidad. Trinidad has a different culture. You think the investors are impressed with what is going on here? Imagine if they have a case that has to go in the court system and the government of the day can step in when the judge makes an order and the president can say, I'm granting respite from this order or against this order. You know what you are sending, what signal you are sending to investors? You know what you're doing to your legal system? You're making your legal system subject to executive directions. You are undermining the very essence of independence of the judiciary. That's what the president did with Winston Jordan the other day. And when the investor comes and he actually wins his case, the government doesn't want to pay. They piss upon the court order, they throw it aside. That is what this government is doing in the DIPCON matter, and that is what it is doing with the Caribbean Court of Justice matter, rulings. What signal you think that is sending to investors? You want the poor people of Guyana, and I'm talking to supporters of the government. Guyana can only develop if foreign investors come here. Foreign investors will only come here if we behave like decent, civilized human beings. Nobody will bring their tens of millions of US dollars to invest it in a place where people are behaving like animals, where there is no rule of law, there is no decency, there is no judiciary that is functioning properly, that there is an executive that is power hungry and that wants to control and wants to violate the law. Which investor will want to come and invest in Linden when they see what is going on? Or in any area in this country. So I say that to you, my fellow Guyanese, so that you understand the damage that you are doing to yourself when you support politicians who are behaving in a manner that I have outlined. And they are not doing it for your interest, because you are not getting anything. As I said, not more than 3,000 people are benefiting from this government. Not more than 3,000. The rest of Guyana is sucking salt. The rest of Guyana is punishing like everyone else. 3,000 people in government, their friends, their families, their cronies, are the ones that are benefiting. And go through their own supporters. Forget PVP supporters. Don't bother with them for the time being. They are not going to benefit from this government at all. But let us look at the government's own supporters and the way it is treating them. Now we are close to elections, so you will see ministers around the place. But where they were before. Look at how they treated rice farmers. Look at how they treated sugar workers. Black sugar workers. Black rice farmers. Rice farmers and sugar workers that may have voted for them. Look at how they treated them. Look at how they treated the business sector. Every day they are fighting with the private sector. Every single day is a different fight. You can't develop a country like that. You can't expect people to bring their money to invest in a country where we are behaving like uncivilized animals, where we don't have regard to our own law. We are trampling upon our own constitution. We have no respect for our own judges. Who will come and respect us? Who will bring money here for us to benefit? I am saying to you that these things that are going on in the court system, under the guise of politics, where they are abusing the judges. You think Marcus would dare go to in Trinidad and file the kind of application he has filed, telling the judge, Justice Roxanne George, that she's biased? You think Marcus would ever do that in Trinidad and Tobago? No. But Marcus can come and do that in Guyana, because Basil Williams encourages that as Attorney General. The Attorney General has a duty to protect all state institutions, including the judiciary. This Attorney General denigrates the judiciary, denigrates and disrespects the judiciary. No Attorney General would allow a government to disrespect the highest court in this land, like how this government is disrespecting the Caribbean Court of Justice. And people are laughing. People are laughing because it suits their political ends. People, I see Facebook, people are laughing the CCJ. They're uneducated. I feel sorry for them. They don't understand the implications. They don't understand how they are self-destructing. Because institutions like the judiciary is there not to protect politicians. It is to protect the people from politicians. That institutions like the judiciary, institutions that are independent, are there to protect the citizenry against the politicians. And the politicians are using the poor people of this country as pawns and are turning them against the judiciary. And uneducatedness, backwardness, blind political loyalty are all contributing to a population allowing itself to be used and abused by the population, and being used to attack the very institutions that will have to protect them eventually from the very politicians. That is what is going on here. Who you think you will have to turn to one day when you and the politician get a problem? It is the judiciary. And now you are undermining the authority of that very institution. When a time comes to protect you, it may not be strong enough to protect you because you have undermined it. There are certain things that you do not play with in a society. You do not play with. You do not play with at all. And one of those things is the judiciary of a society. The moment the judiciary falls, the moment the judiciary becomes impotent, the moment it becomes corrupt, the moment it becomes weak, then that society will collapse. Look around the world. Wherever there is poverty, wherever there is anarchy, wherever there is poverty, corruption, and that kind of thing, you will see that there is a weak judiciary. There is a weak judiciary. There is a correlation, a deep and strong correlation between development and the justice system. You check every developed country in the world, they have a justice system that is functioning, that commands the respect of the electorate of the country. It's competent. It delivers justice in time. That is why you have economic prosperity. These things go hand in hand. One doesn't pass the other. They all together concatenate and aggregate to make a strong society. And that is what is absent in Guyana. And why is it absent? Because we have politicians in government who are undermining the basis, the foundation of these institutions. So Basil Williams can just come and argue some foolishness. Why? Because he wants to delay the hearing of a case. You don't do that to the judiciary. Fortunately, the judge did not pay him much mind, and therefore he did not succeed. He did not succeed in delaying the case in the manner that he intended to. But time is running. And rather than GCOM preparing itself for elections, GCOM is filing legal proceedings. And look at Lowenfield. Lowenfield is now acting for GCOM because Lowenfield, as I disclosed yesterday, Lowenfield has retained Marcus. Lowenfield files an application, an affidavit supporting the application filed by Marcus. But Lowenfield is not GCOM. Lowenfield is not GCOM. Article 161 of the Constitution says that GCOM consists of a chairman and 6 commissioners. A chairman and 6 commissioners are what constitute GCOM. Lowenfield is not part of GCOM. Lowenfield must carry out the instructions of GCOM. Lowenfield is the tail. He is not the dog. GCOM has to wag the tail. It's not the tail wagging GCOM. Lowenfield can retain lawyer for GCOM. Perhaps GCOM can retain lawyers for Lowenfield. So that is a live issue before the court. And we will see how the court deals with that. But I have called upon GCOM because GCOM was not, this case was filed yesterday, this application by Marcus. Justice Claudette Singh was only sworn in yesterday. Prior to yesterday, until Patterson demitted office on the 24th of June. From 24th of June to yesterday, there was no GCOM. There was no GCOM. GCOM only became properly constituted when Justice Claudette Singh was sworn in. And GCOM has not met. So who instructing Lowenfield? Or who instruction is Lowenfield carrying out? Can be GCOM, because there was no GCOM. And that's a question that will have to be answered. I want to see who will be paying Marcus. Marcus traveling from Trinidad. He will end up without a client. He will end up without a client. Because I can't imagine that GCOM, with Claudette Singh as the chairman, will want to endorse the kind of ridiculous application which he has filed, accusing Chief Justice George of bias, simply because the judge referred to the language of the Constitution. That is what the judge did, as interpreted by the Caribbean Court of Justice. So as usual, I have done enough talking, and it is time now that I go to the phones. So I invite your participation. Remember, please be courteous and brief and to the point. I don't want any abusive callers on the phone. So the number is on your screen and you are free to caller, you're on the air.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, could you please lower your television volume?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Mr. Nandlall.
Yes?
I have a quick question for you, sir. What would happen to the concrete palace that Granger built? That's one. And the other one is, Ramdesan said the Constitution is fiction. The man is getting out. And the third one is to talk about education. You know, John Ruskin says that education does not mean to teach people to know what they do not know. It means to teach them to behave the way they do not behave. These are the three things I would have to you, sir. So you can deal with them from there.
All right. Which concrete palace you talking about, though? Or the caller is saying, I don't know which concrete palace President Granger is building. Maybe his house he's talking about at Pearl. I don't want to get into those kind of personal issues. I want to keep this program as a program that deals with issues and not personalities. It's quite a very, very uneducated statement that Comrade Ramjitan made, calling Article 1066 and 1067 a legal fiction. I asked him, and he just laughed. I asked him, I said, how can a lawyer of your standing, 30 years standing, read a provision in the Constitution and call it a legal fiction? Caller, you're in the air. Please, when you come through, make sure you are ready with your contribution. Caller, you're in the air.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Is this a TV program, Mr. Nandlall?
Yes?
But he didn't pick up the phone. You, yeah. Good night, sir.
Yes, I pick up the phone. Yes.
You pick up the phone?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, I see Mr. Nandlall talking about just now, right?
Uh-huh.
And it is so shameful that people do not recognize the truth. The truth is about disrespect the CCJ movement. You don't think so?
Yes, I say that they're disrespecting the CCJ judgment.
Yes, but we as Guyanese, right?
Uh-huh.
And we supposed to not disrespect, but respect every rule.
I know, but
4 years have been gone. It will be now in 5 years. Everybody needs something good.
yes, of course.
I think the young people, they are suffering because without job, and as the opposition experience and the government to, move out, and let the youth have something to do.
Okay, caller, where are you calling me from?
I'm calling from Fort Bragg,
Okay.
and I think the youth are suffering out there.
Yes, I know that. All right.
I think that if 4 years you are not doing nothing, and you are there for 5 years, and 4 years you are not doing nothing, I think you should remove. If someone said they could do better, give them a chance again.
All right, caller. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And when the PPP was there for 28 years, they said they need a change, and everybody give them a change.
Yes.
So there's nothing they're doing.
Okay, caller. Thank you very much.
Yes, so I think they should give the PPP a chance back again to see what they're going to do.
All right. Thank you.
And because he looks so bad at Mr. Nandlall, say they are not respecting the rules.
Okay, caller. Thank you. Please, when you call, make sure that you make your point and allow others to make a contribution as well. And please also ensure that you put your television volume down, because I'm getting the feedback here and it is very disconcerting when I'm hearing 2-3 voices. Caller, you're on the air?
Yeah.
Yes, sir?
No, I'm calling to Mr. Anil.
Yes, you are speaking to me.
Oh, you?
Yes.
Here now. My listening, right?
Yes.
Now, sir, people come and live in Guyana 1 year, you give them an ID card, right?
Yes.
Is that right? You listen to me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
No. If somebody live abroad, right? And them entitled for old age, right? That is senior citizen money, right?
Yes.
They got to live 2 years in Guyana before they get that, right? And here the corruption of the thing, right? And so if I not can live 1 year, them entitled for get that.
No, but who tell you that? That is not the law.
And that them attack.
No, man. All right, caller, thank you. I know that it is being rumored that Haitians and nationals from other countries are coming into Guyana and are facilitated by the government and issued with ID cards so that they can vote at the next elections. I've been hearing that. I've been hearing that, and photographs of large number of Haitians are being posted around on social media, and it is contended that the government is giving them ID cards. We have persons who are looking out for that kind of thing, and once we discover it, we will make it public and we will deal with it accordingly. But it is illegal. You have to satisfy the Citizenship Act of Guyana before you can get citizenship. You can only get ID card if you have citizenship, and you can only get citizenship if you comply with the Citizenship Act. You must live here for 5 years, or you must be married to a Guyanese, and so on. It's a whole long process, just like in the United States of America. It's the same, very similar kind of regulatory framework which governs the issuance of citizenship in our country. So don't let anyone fool you. Anybody who comes here and gets citizenship in 1 year, it's highly likely that it's illegal. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, Mr. Nandlall, I heard you and I agree with you.
About what?
Mr. Nandlall, you there?
I am here, I'm hearing you.
I agree with you. 2 years, government arrange a check to pick somebody to go to the G count.
Yes, I know.
And that's a shame, because you hold up the whole process and all that. I think all of them who are in Parliament right now, they should be retired.
All right, caller, thank you very much. So we are running out of time. I'll take a couple more calls. Please keep your points brief and make sure that your the volume of your television is low. Caller, you're on the air.
Good day, Mr. Nandlall. I like something. I wouldn't wish to mention my name. But what you mentioned about people getting citizenship in 1 year, I would like to say that is very true.
Hello? I'm sorry we missed that caller. But if you have information, any information about people obtaining citizenship illegally, please call into Freedom House or call the leader of the opposition office and provide that information to someone. Please. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Mr. Nala?
Yes. The telephone is giving us some problem because we have some internet problems. Hopefully by next week I address those matters. Caller, you're on the air?
Hello, good night.
Good night.
I'm calling to make a complaint.
Yes?
The complaint is about Kenny, the road lights. They're not on, so I'm calling to see if anybody can do something about it. Because a lot of robbery and accident and things happening.
All right, we'll go slowly. Letter Kenny. What road? The street lamps?
The road, the public road.
The public road?
Yes.
The lamps alongside the road?
Yes, alongside the road, right through.
They're not working. All right, caller. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'd like for somebody checking to it.
Thank you. So I am sure that officials of GPL working in quarantine are looking at this program, and the caller just complained that the lights at Letterkenny Public Road are not working. This will have to be our final call. Caller, you're on the air. Caller, you're on the air.
Mr. Nandlall,
Yes, sir.
good night.
Good night.
When the Bharat at CCJ, not to be the third term, everybody been happy. But why now these people respect the Constitution.
The people are lawless. How many times I must tell
Why
you
they
that?
not respect the Constitution, but them respect when Barack bin can go back for the third term?
But, you see, when I hear these people are allergic to the Constitution. You know, it's an allergy. You have a government that is allergic to the rule of law, it's allergic to the Constitution, it's allergic to democracy. So the allergies are acting up. Whenever the Constitution has to be obeyed, you see an allergic reaction. That is what is going on here. So, callers, I want to thank you very much. I think my operator is signaling me that I can take another call. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. Good night.
Good night.
I'm calling concerning this GCOM registration.
Yes.
Yes. If they come around and telling us to register, but we are not registering, we refuse to register. So when we go to the poll, will we be able to vote?
Caller, I will answer you. Of course, you will be able to vote. Your names are already on the list. They cannot take your names off the list. And the entire process that they are doing now is illegal. It is unconstitutional. It's contrary to the Registration Act. And it is in violation of the clear language expressed by the Caribbean Court of Justice in their judgments and constitutional and consequential orders. All right? So don't worry about that. You will get to vote. This is where I have to say thank you very much for joining me over the past hour or so. We have had a very good exchange and we have discussed a number of important issues in relation to matters and events taking place in our country. So until I see you again next Tuesday, please take care and have a great week. Thank you and good night.